Welcome to the Electoral Commission of Queensland's webinar about incurring electoral expenditure. This short webinar has information for candidates, groups of candidates, registered political parties, third parties and agents in the upcoming 2024 local government election in Queensland. It will explain what electoral expenditure is and isn't, why knowing about electoral expenditure is important for you, some examples of electoral expenditure, and where you can get more information or assistance from the ecq if needed. So what is electoral expenditure? It includes the costs of designing, producing, printing, broadcasting or publishing any kind of material for a campaign purpose. For example, ads for cinema, radio, TV or the internet, direct marketing emails or mail-outs, flyers, billboards, brochures, signs or how to vote cards, the distribution costs for election material, cost of opinion polling or research, and fees for contracted services related to any of the above. Electoral expenditure includes GST. All of this is referred to under Section 109A of the Local Government Electoral Act. As we can see, electoral expenditure has a very specific definition. You'll need to know what electoral expenditure is because as an election participant, like a candidate or a third party, you have disclosure obligations for electoral expenditure. Having a good understanding of electoral expenditure will make it easy for you to determine what you need or don't need to disclose. Picking up on one of the points from the previous slide, we can see that electoral expenditure is incurred for a campaign purpose. So this means that expenditure will be incurred for a campaign purpose if it promotes or opposes the election of a candidate, if it promotes or opposes a political party or group of candidates for an election, or if it otherwise influences voting at an election. Here we have a note for anyone from a third-party election participant who is watching this webinar. Money spent by a third party is electoral expenditure if the dominant purpose for the spending is a campaign purpose. For example, a third party might run an ad raising awareness about a public policy issue. As long as the ad's dominant purpose is not for a campaign, even if it does achieve a campaign purpose, then it will not be electoral expenditure. In understanding electoral expenditure, it can help to know what is not electoral expenditure. Again, this comes up from Section 109A of the Local Government Electoral Act, and it provides a list of specific exclusions to clarify the definition of electoral expenditure. Electoral expenditure does not include employing staff for a campaign purpose. This may exclude consultants depending on their role, campaign materials for MPs or councillors in other states. This won't necessarily be as important for local government candidates in Queensland. However, it may be something that registered political parties or other third parties have to consider when determining whether something would be electoral expenditure for a local government election in Queensland. Factual advertising for registered political party administration. This could include factual advertising for organisational purposes or to select candidates for nomination, or expenses for which a sitting councillor receives or is entitled to an allowance or entitlement. These expenses are allowances or entitlements for a sitting councillor that they receive or are entitled to receive. Of note here is a councillor newsletter, as councillors can receive allowances or entitlements to produce them, but they will not be considered electoral expenditure if it complies with the council's newsletter requirements. In any other instance, if the newsletter is for a campaign purpose, it may be electoral expenditure. As we've seen in the last few slides, electoral expenditure has a very specific definition. You'll need to know what electoral expenditure is because as an election participant, such as a candidate, you have disclosure obligations for electoral expenditure. Additionally, we have recently seen the introduction of electoral expenditure caps to the Local Government Electoral Act, so you'll need to understand what will or will not count towards your electoral expenditure cap. Having a good understanding of electoral expenditure will make it easier for you to navigate your disclosure and cap obligations. Let's look at some examples. A political party pays for an opinion poll to be conducted about one of their endorsed candidates for the upcoming election. Is this electoral expenditure? Yes, this section, section 109A, bracket 2C, has expenditure for carrying out an opinion poll or research included as an electoral expense, and it is for a campaign purpose. Our second example is a group of candidates paying for an advertising agency to design and produce a TV ad, which is then broadcast on their local network. Is this electoral expenditure? Yes, under section 109A, bracket 2A, expenditure for designing, producing, printing, broadcasting, or publishing material for an election is included as electoral expense, and it is again for a campaign purpose. And our last example is a candidate buys a sandwich and drink from a local takeaway while they're campaigning door to door in their division. Is this electoral expenditure? No, that is not electoral expenditure. Food and drink are not included in the definition. You might like to pause the video now and think of some expenses you might incur in the lead up to the 2024 local government election. Then take some time to think about whether or not they would be considered electoral expenditure. The Electoral Commission of Queensland has published a comprehensive range of fact sheets about electoral expenditure and the new expenditure caps on our website. This is where we recommend you go for information. The specific fact sheets that expand on the topics we've discussed today are on screen now. Each different election participant has their own fact sheet for expenditure caps. In addition to our ecq website, you might like also to consult the Local Government Electoral Act directly for clarification or more information. Our funding disclosure and compliance team is also available to assist you if you run into any difficulty, so please reach out. Please note that the ecq provides general advice only. Should you be in any doubt regarding your obligations, please seek independent legal advice. Thank you.